Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight Series. My name's Mark McNulty, and I am president of Action Coach Bluegrass in Southern Indiana. Today, I have with me Damian Pataluna, who is owner of FischerSIPS, and we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, and some of the challenges he's faced and overcome, and some best practices, and just a peek into what it's really like to own and operate a business. So if this is your first time on the channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when future interviews like this drop. So Damian, welcome, and thank you so much for being here today.
And thank you for having me, Mark.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about FischerSIPS and how this all came about from employee to owner.
Sure. So we are a manufacturer, a small manufacturer of a building product called a structural insulated panel. What that is it's a building product for building homes and small commercial construction. Basically, a SIP, which is a structural insulated panel, takes the place of your exterior walls and roof. It includes the framing, the sheathing, and the insulation in one step. So if you think about it, it's really it's a panelized building method on site that really advances the speed of construction, gives you a far better energy efficiency, and it just helps you keep things controlled a little better on site because we're doing everything off-site construction. And so essentially, this is what we're doing. We're taking pretty much anybody's plans and we're converting them from stick framing to SIP framing and supplying the house with it.
How did owning the business come about? How'd that all come about?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I've been working here now, I guess, well, from the time I started right out of college about 31 years ago. And I remember that I wanted to get into sales in college because I just felt like I had the ability to sell anything. And I never really considered business ownership at that point. And I remember that the counselor at where I went to college, which was Bellarmine University, and she had said, "Hey, Damian, I know this guy. He's got a small business. He's looking for a new sales guy. He's kind of a jerk, but I think you're going to fit in real well there." And I was like, I don't know, was that a backhanded compliment or what, But come to find out, I asked her about it a little while later. And she said, "No, you just tend to let things slide off your back. Nothing really bothers you." And so when I came to work for Fred at FischerSIPS, it was just a really small business doing maybe, I think it was around $300,000 a year in sales. And I was hired as the salesman to help grow the business. As happens with many small businesses, in addition to doing the sales work, I was also doing the accounting work, some of the drawing work, and pretty much you name it. It was, you're the sales guy, create your own materials, figure out how to build it all yourself and make sure you get paid. And, and that's kind of where it all got started. So, that was back in, I guess, 1993 when I started working for Fred. So I slowly built the company up, putting everything together. And by 2006, we had grown sales from about 300,000 to about 3 million. So we were cruising right along, and I'm feeling pretty good about everything, and I'm thinking, I've built this thing pretty much. I think I would love to be part owner. So at that point, there was two owners. Fred was the major owner, Fred Fischer, and then there was Scott Bryan, who was a minority owner. And so Scott let me buy him out in 2005. So then it was Fred and myself. And I really wanted to grow and expand the business faster and more than what Fred was willing to do. Fred was kind of approaching his retirement age and he really didn't want to make a big investment. I wanted to buy some CNC equipment to move the company into the newest technology to advance cutting and moving forward. So Fred was really not all excited about spending a bunch of money expanding the business. And so, I had the brilliant idea in 2006 to buy him out. And of course, everybody knows what happened to the housing market starting in about 2008. Everything just crashed with the hell in a handbag. And our sales went from 3.3 pretty precipitously down to 1.1 in just a 2-year time period. And that was my first real lesson in owning a business. And they can't teach you this stuff in school. You're riding high one day and the next day, you don't know, your head's just swimming in what just happened,
Right. So then let's see. So you're in construction industry. So then your bank wants their money back, right?
Yeah. So that was kind of another lesson that I learned. So essentially, to get the loan, I had gone to multiple different banks, and I finally was able to get a banker that knew me and trusted me to work with me on an SBA loan. And in hindsight, well, I'm not a big fan of SBA loans myself going forward anymore, and I'll tell you why. The SBA loan that I had was an 80% guarantee loan by SBA.
Mm,
And when the market crashed, obviously I lost the majority of my customers within a 2-year period. They were all filing bankruptcy and leaving me high and dry. And so I was pretty much struggling to make my payments, even though I never missed a single payment. I had gone down to interest only, continued to pay the bank, and I'm thinking, okay, if I can just ride this out, by 2013, things had started to start creeping back up again. I was like, okay, I think I can make this work. Well, one Saturday in July, as a matter of fact, I go out to the mailbox and open it up. There's a letter from my bank, and it said, "We are calling your loan. You owe us $800,000, and you have 2 weeks to pay us." And of course, at that point, my heart just sunk. And I just asked them when I went into the bank later on that week. I'm like, "Listen, I haven't missed a single payment. Everything is, I'm doing what I can here. Why do I have to pay you this money back now?" And their honest answer was like, "Damian, we have had you on a list now for a couple of years of people in the construction industry. And for us, we just think a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. And when you file bankruptcy, we are going to get our payment from the government, 80% of what you owe us. And that's just how it's going to go." And so pretty much I had to endure that. And it was a long process. The whole bankruptcy reorganization process took about 2 years, from 2014 to 2015, when we finally came back out of it again. But once again, it was just another real lesson in how things go, because even the bank was like, "Listen, just do what we tell you, and everything's going to come out all right on the other end. But this is how it has to go, because, we want that 80% guaranteed from the government, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And this is how it's going to be."
right.
So essentially, that's how it went. And I guess on the good side of things, yes, when I restarted in 15, I was out of debt, right? Or mostly out of debt. And there were still some things that needed to be, taken care of, because they reaffirmed some things. But in general, we were able to get restarted. At 2007, at the high point, I think I had 23 employees. And so by the time we got around to restarting, I was down to 6.
Mhm.
And so we got the business restarted, and we've been going since then. We're back up to about that 3 million level right now in sales. I'm doing it now with just 13 employees versus 23. So there were also lessons learned there along the way.
Right. So thank you for sharing that. People don't realize, what over the years in any industry, but construction in particular, there have been a lot of changes. So you've rebuilt it. So who's your best clients? Who are your clients?
So 65% of my business goes to repeat customers, which are typically going to be builders and contractors that are doing custom home. They're typically going to be high performance homes. And a high performance home in the housing industry is one that is going to be super energy efficient, very strong, able to withstand high winds. But generally, they're designed to just be very energy efficient. So the SIPs are like the enabling technology. They might combine it with solar. They might combine it with wind power. They'll be able to use super high efficient units in there to heat it and cool it if they're not going with a mini split or something. So that's basically my main target, is the custom home builder who's doing, I would say, 2 to 5 homes per year,
Okay.
maybe 10 at the most, because they're working with a really select type of client that they want, and they know that this is the specialty custom home that they want to build. And our product is kind of like the enabling technology that really helps make everything else work in there. We don't sell to a lot of large home builders like your Horton or Beazer Homes. Those guys are really not interested in using our type product, because they've already got all their systems set up for the way they want to do it. And they want to crank things out so fast that the SIPs, because they are more expensive than standard stick construction as well,
Right.
they're just not going to fit into their model of how they do business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what's your competition other than the high volume houses that just stick frame fast as they can?
Yeah. So Our competition, we always say stick framing, but I would say stick framing contractors that are trying to build a higher energy efficient home, for example. So they're going to use the spray-in foam. They might be using rock wool, different types of insulation, but it's still going to be essentially a 2x stud framed house. And those guys are the ones that really give us the most competition when we're out doing anything. The thing that would make our system better than theirs in most cases is that ours is panelized. So in addition to having the extra strength that you get out of the SIP and the extra energy efficiency, everything is also prefabricated here in our factory, which really lends toward faster installation cycle time.
Okay. I'm guessing that you've got, a pretty high percentage of repeat business.
Yes.
So what's your top marketing strategy though for getting a new client on board?
So, right now, the market really has changed, as you said, especially in the construction industry over the past 10 years with all the energy efficient advancements. But here recently, labor has become an issue. And so right now, when we are looking for new builders and contractors to come online, while we used to make energy efficiency the prime reason to join our business, it's now just as much save time and labor on site as anything else. There's a whole movement right now with off-site construction. It's all being driven by the fact that there's just not enough people out there, employees, to fill the factory jobs and to fill the job site jobs. And so this is where what we're doing off-site here. We're actually, like I said, we're taking the walls in the factory, we're making them, we're cutting them, we're cutting the window and door openings, we're actually wrapping them with the lumber, bucking them out. So then when they get to the job site, you need essentially one guy who is the lead framer, knows what he's doing, can build plumb, level, and square. And then you need 3 or 4 other guys who, their job is to go grab panel number 1, put it next to panel number 2, make sure that everything's in order and is going together properly. It's kind of a simplified way of doing it, but really, so when we're marketing now, we're marketing we still are going toward the high performance builder, but with an angle as well toward other builders that are just trying to, get something done because, the whole house construction process, years ago it used to be 5 months, and now you hear it stretching out to 8 and 9 months on a house because the labor is so tight and they can't find things. So if you can save 2 or 3 weeks by going with a product like ours, all of a sudden it becomes a viable option for a lot of these builders.
Because you're lowering their carrying costs and their financing costs. Okay. So, if you look back, so let's look at the journey from kind of when you restarted in 15 till now. What are some memorable roadblocks or hurdles that you had to overcome as you rebuilt your business?
Well, naturally, because of the bankruptcy, that created a lot of roadblocks and hurdles with just getting more lines of credit, to run the business. And so that was a challenge. Whenever I went to expand on equipment, I was always paying a higher rate, usually 2 to 3 times what the normal rate was going to be. But at the same time, I had to have it. So I had to suck it up and, just try to pay it off sooner because, try to save some money on interest from that standpoint. And of course, whenever you do have a bankruptcy on your record, new customers coming to you, especially fresh out of the bankruptcy, they're going to be very weary of working with you. Just in that, well, the guy just came out of bankruptcy. Is he going to be back in bankruptcy again? And of course, the good thing about bankruptcy is you can only file it once every 7 years, right? So I'm not going to go right back into it again. But those were some of the short-term challenges that I had to deal with as I was getting out of it. And eventually, as things were able to grow and I continued to make all my payments and pay bills and bring on new clients, the comfort with the business with everybody that was working with me grew as well. And of course, now we do have lines of credit and larger loans at standard rates as well. But, it took years and years and years to overcome that. But it is challenging when every time you make a phone call, the creditor on the other end says, so we know you got a BK on your record.
Yeah. So you've gone back to basically your old sales level with just a little more than half the employees.
Yes.
So Tell us about what you did so you can do the same level of production with just 55, 60% of the labor force. Awesome, awesome accomplishment.
Well, and I appreciate that, but I can also say that I'm partly at fault for the original 23 because I had that, if you build it, they will come and sort of mentality. And I was hiring people that I really didn't need clearly. And, I was fat as a business as far as how many employees that I had. I probably wasn't too fat, but I didn't need all 23. So what I was able to do by moving the business down, when we restarted, we moved it to another smaller factory and we just kind of condensed everything. And of course, that usually means people are doing more than just what they were doing in the past. So you don't have nearly as much middle management and infrastructure along those lines. But when you get a small team that's really good, that you can count on and trust, and they want to do more things, they want to have more things in their plate, it makes it possible to do these things. And quite frankly, also, you have a little more control over money and costs when there's fewer people because you know exactly who's doing what rather than, well, this guy's, taking care of this. Is there any duplication of things going on from that standpoint? And so it was a process of streamlining things and really sitting down because when you go through something like that and you go from 23 down to restart at 6, basically, and these are 6 people that were with me prior to the 23, it was like, who do I really, really need to restart the business? And these are the ones that I want to make sure I don't lose or I want to bring back, I should say. And they become your core company, and then you can grow back again from there.
So, you mentioned, overall in the economy, we're all dealing with hard to find good employees, right? So what are some things you're doing to retain your key employees? Because that's the next part, right? It's finding new ones is hard. And so that puts an extra emphasis on we have to become the employer of choice for our current employees so they stick around.
Well, you do have to become a bit more flexible, even in our industry that is, we do a lot of stuff in-house and on-site and whatnot. Flexibility as far as being able to work from home, take work home, not be in the office all the time. To a larger extent, I'm pretty flexible with my employees, especially the office employees, about when they work and where they work from, because it's hard to retain employees from that standpoint that are not doing it. And of course, you also want to make sure your salary is commensurate with what other things they can get out there. And a lot of times you can look at the flexibility and kind of use that with the salary. Some people just don't like working for large corporations where, you're just a number, now user number 50638, come here, and so there is some benefit to working for small business. So I try to keep, within reasonable money terms, what I can afford to pay people to make sure that their wages are competitive. Maybe not the best wages out there, but they will be competitive. And then flexibility, once again, that really helps a lot. And, I also, like every other Friday or so, I'll just buy lunch for the guys in the shop and have everybody sit around. And you really have to create a cohesiveness amongst your team so that there's not this, everybody knows who they are and they feel like you want them working for them and they want to work for you. And it's not just all about the almighty dollar, right? We're all trying to accomplish something together, and I want them to feel closer to a family than just a pure, employer situation.
Right. Okay. Awesome. So looking forward, where do you want to take the business in the next 3 to 5 years, if you can share that?
Sure, yeah. So I just completed an expansion last year. As a matter of fact, double the size of the factory and the business. So I am looking forward to growth right now. We're in that mode. Like I said, we're at 3 million this year. The goal is to get it to 5 million in the next 2 years if I can. And that's going to take obviously more builders on a regular basis, doing some more commercial work and trying to bring on basically new general contractors. Because while we do about 15% of our business is, one-time customers, that's it. They're just one time. They're not really sustainable. So I'm in the process now of creating a new builder dealer type program with special pricing and additives for those guys. So they have incentive to continue to come back and work with us again. And then obviously when that happens, I'm going to need probably 1 or 2 new salespeople and Typically in our industry, when you start adding salespeople and selling more jobs, you're going to need more guys to draw the jobs. So we'll probably need to bring in more people in CAD and get that side of things rolling as well.
Okay. All right, great. Well, that's exciting, challenging, but exciting. So covered a lot here just in a short time. So what I want to do now is ask you just a couple kind of quick, rapid, first thoughts, probably right questions.
Okay,
So
sure.
what is your key to success been?
My key, I believe, has been that I take care of my customers. Do what you say what you do, and they will continue to come back, and be diligent with your product. Try not to send out product that is incorrect.
So what's one piece of advice you would give to other business owners?
If you're a business owner, I would say you got to be prepared to weather the storm for sure, because you're going to have your good days and your bad days. But it's really persistence, persistence, persistence. It will eventually pay off in the long run.
Okay. Awesome. I like that. So what's a book that you're reading or listening to now or recently that you would recommend other business owners to read?
It's been a minute since I've actually read a book.
Yeah.
Mostly, I listen to podcasts, or I spend most of my time just paying attention to what's going on, like CNBC, in the construction or just in the business world in general, and trying to keep up with it. I wish I had a good book that I could give to you at this point, but I just don't off the top of my head.
Do you have a favorite podcast?
Yours is going to become one of my favorites here real soon.
So last question, and this is one that is always my favorite. What inspires you the most?
I've always said that the day that I wake up and I hate what I'm doing is the day that I'm going to quit. And I've been doing this now for 31 years, and I've been through bankruptcy and had my ass kicked left and right. And, I still wake up every morning and I love what I do. I love working on new projects. I love helping customers build houses, build their dream houses, essentially, and helping them fulfill what they want to do. Every day is just a new challenge. And so, yeah, really, it's the whole sort of industry and what I do that, for whatever reason, I love waking up in the morning and coming to work.
Awesome. I love that answer. Thank you. So this has been Damian Pataluna, owner of FischerSIPS. There's been quite a lot of lessons learned here. Whether you're in the construction industry or other industries, we all have economic cycles that we have to live through, and he's lived through a couple and come out the other side in better shape. So lots to learn here. Go ahead and bookmark this, listen to it a couple times, pick up on all the things that Damian was able to share with us today, and then subscribe so you get future conversations as well. Appreciate you being with us here today, Damian, and sharing all your wisdom and thoughts and experiences with us.
Thank you for your time as well, Mark. I really appreciate it.
All right. So thank you, listeners, and stay tuned for the next interview when it drops here next week. See you then on the other side. Thanks. Bye.